Okay, so let's resume our investigation of riding horse. So when you come into this posture, you should almost feel like you've stepped into the shower. Like suddenly you become aware of this downward flow through the body, around the body. Yeah, so the spine. So a lot of what we do is sort of connecting with that craniosacral rhythm. Yeah. So the skull, the spine hanging down from it, and the spine ends in the sacrum and the little tap. Yeah, so just feel that. And so the arms sort of just come out of it and the legs come out of it. So that's the main, if you like, structure in the body. And the cranium is made up of plates which move a little bit. Yeah, so there's like a pump. But similarly, the sacrum. So the sacrum is like 5 vertebrae that can just very gently and subtly just, so it can change shape a little bit. The sacrum, it can do this, it breathes, So this is suspended from above. Like you've got a little islet in your head and it's just being held up. The spine hangs down. And when the spine just hangs free, then your sacrum will just reach back very slightly. And the tail will drop down. And so these joints here that we've been working on, so these have to be relaxed to allow your sacrum to just angle back slightly, which is what it wants to do. Yeah. And then just feel the mass of that system, so the spine basically, just cleaving the platform of the pelvis. So it's like a triangle, there's like a wedge that's pushing these two bones apart. So as you relax and allow gravity to stream down, there's a net thrust outwards from your spine and sacrum trying to drive through the pelvic bones. So the feeling in the legs is like they're two claws that are grabbing, and it's so used to talk about grabbing the ground. And so it opens here, the knees go out, and that actually brings the feet together. Yeah? So the feet feel as though they're trying to move towards each other, but under the ground. Yeah. So if your feet are too wide apart, then you won't get that. It will just feel like your legs are just projecting like this. So they have to be not too far apart so that you can just use the openness here and the sinking to actually feel as though the feet are beginning to sort of drift back towards each other. So if you were standing on a slippery floor, your feet wouldn't slide away from each other. Okay, and now just pulling this in a little bit. So we want to connect, having aligned with gravity, not gravity streaming through. We just want to connect with some very sort of basic primitive musculature in the body. And that's basically just the contraction on the out-breath, if you like. So drawing in, expanding out, pulling in. So they call this sphincter gymnastics. It's a great phrase. So here it's like you're tightening the sphincters, the urethra, the anus, but the eyes as well. You know? So the ring muscles, basically. So that squeezes out the air. And then when you relax that and push against it, it sucks the air in. So here. Yeah, so on this one, you're tightening your bum, especially, and you're making fists and you're gripping the ground with your toes, and then here everything opens and then pulls in. Yeah, so this tends to be the motor that we've lost as we get older and older. So babies have it best of all. So it's opening and closing. So this is opening, and then this is closing. So connected with the ring muscles are the diaphragms. So as you contract, this diaphragm is tightening up the urogenital block, and this one is pushing up to expel the air. So you want the feeling that as you repeat, you slowly become just this. This is all there is. This movement, this exercise. You're just right in the thick of it. So you become possessed by it. So the thing about the sphincters is that when they contract, they all contract together, and then they all relax together. So basically, it's just like one stimulus that actually fires the whole body into contraction and then into release. And then just out to here. Again, just feel gravity. It's just like as soon as we start coming into the mind, then we lose that. So to get into that sort of really sort of animal pumping rhythm, you need to stop what's going on up here. And so quiet mind, it's not really this sort of peaceful, considered stillness. That still mind, it's actually getting into the body in this really sort of visceral, muscular way. So you become capable of like supreme activity. Okay, now let's just work. Basically, it's the same thing, but now just working from a different place. So now just what we've been doing is relaxing here, letting the tail reach back, and then relaxing here to let the sacrum just drop down. So here, this is like relaxing the hip joints and the sacroiliacs. So the sacroiliacs are opening up here. So it feels like it's spreading across the back, and then you just let the sacrum hang back down and your buttocks come in. So this is beginning to get you into like a horizontal, and then relaxing here just brings you back to the vertical. So we're sort of playing, there's a play between that horizontal spirited animality, animalness, and the vertical, quiet, serene, spiritual aspect here. So just the important thing here is to try and feel the tail extending backwards. Almost like you're trying to extrude the spine towards the wall. And then here you just relax that down. So it's like you, first of all, we release here to actually make a structure to get the spine to extend. And then that we just relax that structure now. So now I just relax it. Yeah, so the spine is like two halves, but they're not the same size. So the split is actually here. So the mid-name pretty much, yeah? So when I release here, the part below this extends back like this, and the part above it extends upwards and back like this. It's like I'm trying to sort of almost make a circle that I'm leaning back on. Yeah. And then when I relax this down, I'm making a circle here. Yeah. So we just want to, so the Dan Chen and the Min Meng are like this, the middle of the spine. So what's beneath the Dan Chen will extend backwards as I relax here, and what's above it will reach up and slightly back. And then if I just contract the Dan Chen and just relax my buttocks downwards, and I'll go into the opposite, my tail will come between my legs a little bit, and my head will come over, and I'll end up making this cave, this yielding space. And now just relax it again. So here, so we want this action to come from this, the relaxation here. And then this action to come from the relaxation of the buttocks down. Yeah. So we're just seeing how there's basically this same action that was happening when we were doing the breathing and the pulling of the belly. We can get it by relaxing. So here, down. And now, here. And then, yes, as you do this, try not to get the tail to contract. Just get it to sweep down and under. So here you're extruding your tail. And then here you just imagine it getting really heavy, so it hangs down. And then again, extending back. Okay. Yeah, so we're just making these two circles. It's like two rollers rolling with each other. So I'll bring the world in here, and then I shit it out here. So it comes, so each sacroiliac opens. It's like you get a tail coming out of each one really. Or you can think of like a fan. And then back to here. Yeah, so riding a horse, you know, when your arms are in these ward offs, is basically you're halfway to here, if you like. So you're within that yielding phase. Okay, now let's just get the alternating. Okay, so you've got these two circles here. So when you alternate, you basically just travel the figure of 8. Yeah. But I want to alternate through the relaxation first. Yeah? So I relax here. So what that will do is actually make me make this side pull this way. Yeah? So I relax here, and then I relax the buttock, and that will bring it back round. So release here, and then release the buttock down. Release here. This allows something to come in here and out of the sacroiliac, out of the back here. Yeah? And then I have to get this to actually drop down to use the leg as like a pathway. So I relax here, and then I just let this drop so that that tail of energy that's coming out will actually take the pathway of my leg approximately. And then I release here, and then I have to let the buttock droop to actually get the energy to come down to the foot. So 1, 2, and 1, 2, 1, 2. So to start with, you have to just sort of imagine it, visualize the pathway. But then eventually it becomes, you really, it becomes real. It's something you can really feel, this sort of energy just flowing and melting down the leg. So this is like the buttock is sort of melting and dripping. Yeah, so this release here is like happening inside me. So it's of me, if you like. But then the release at the back that's happening to me. Yeah, so there's a slight difference. So something behind is working on the whole of me, and this is just working locally here. Yeah, so it's like two different perspectives, and you have to switch. So this is right inside. It's me sort of looking into this hole and just going in here, and then this is something that's happened to the whole of me from behind. Yeah, so that's what's tricky, is that making that mental switch from one reality to another, one dimension to another one. And now just the same thing, but just getting it now without the hands, just something in me relaxes down, up, and then it comes in here, something releases, and then I just let the buttock down. So there's two actions. It's a transition, you know, from the front to the back room. So one. So it's basically, you know, what you need to do to allow the energy to pass through. If I just did this one, then I'll just end up being horizontal. So I do that one and then let the other one take over. So in and down, in, down, in. Yeah, so the front one is, I'm just relaxing here in one place, if you like. And then the one from behind is like, almost like a wave passing down the whole of me. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just really just let the body lag, let the energy lead. That's what they say. And so what is it that makes it happen? To start with, it's your mind giving an order. Yeah, so I tell this, okay, relax, and then I say relax here. But eventually it's just like a spark, it's spirit, it's come from somewhere else. It's not the mind really. Okay. So just feel this sort of breaking all the time. Yeah, so both of these two different aspects of you, the sort of the you, the inside you, which is here, and the of you, so the bigger mind, if you like, that contains you. So it's like we have two minds, one that's inside, that's very specific, and one that's outside that contains me. So the one that's inside is all to do with this releasing. So that's basically attacking. It's like sort of coming out. It's what's the impetus that makes you come out rather than stay in. Yeah? And then the other one is like a safety. It's like the parent that's sort of holding the child. Yeah? So here this is releasing, but the other one is releasing as well. So they're both operating all the time. And so when we work, we're just sort of letting one get a bit stronger than the other and then swinging back. But they're just there all the time. So when we're standing in riding horse, you want this feeling that it could so easily just slip into this, in the same way that it could just so easily just slip into this sort of spherical slump. And what we're doing is just sort of hovering, like on a knife's edge. Yeah. So that's the balance, that's the Taoist balance. Yeah? So when we talk about a balanced attitude, it's not picking and choosing, it's not pick and mix, it's not like going to the sweet shop and saying, oh, I'll have some of those, some of those, some of those, some of those, and then making this sort of confused melange. It's like you're just hovering, ready to tip either side, ready to fail at any moment. Yeah. And the better you get at it, it's like the closer to the bone it gets. It's like you just get much closer to things. We don't realize it, but we keep the distance all the time. It's like our cleverness thinks, oh yes, I've got an advantage because I have this distance and it will give me time to make a proper decision. And so we're just crushing that, really squeezing it out so that we're right flat against the world. Yeah. So the world really bleeds in and you bleed out. So it is a bleeding. So you can feel that best in a riding course, because when you break here, you just feel the ground. So releasing here. It's this release that beckons the ground up. Yes, that brings the earth energy up into you. Yes, so without that, you're not really using earth energy, you're just using your energy on the earth. Yes, so it's this ability to sink from the release here. And you can feel it. As soon as I release here, something just comes up. And then let's just move from leg to leg. So, again, I want to. Let's just give it time. just tentacles. So as I sink into this leg, this all releases. Yeah, so both here and here, almost like I'm going to jettison the leg. Almost like I'm going to detach here and leave this leg behind. And that relaxation just allows like an oozing, an oozing down the leg, but also out of the hand. And then it's like that then pulls you across. Yeah. So it's the letting go of this whole side of my body as I feel this side, that extrudes a tentacle of energy, which then grabs hold of something and pulls me across. Yeah, so it's a very different way of moving than actually just pushing with your legs. So here I just really release and pull. So if I just relax all around here, then it's like a wave. It's like a wave will pass down the leg and will take me with it. So what's difficult is that this hip has to just drop down. Yeah? So the knee really needs to go out as you release. And so this joint needs to be quite relaxed within itself. So, and then I just flow with it. So, it's very much sort of go with the flow. The problem is when you do release here, then suddenly this leg takes a lot more strain. So if you've got any problems in the leg and the knee, then you'll be wanting to leap out of it. So you have to really just struggle with it. Relax. Relaxing here, and then something just flows down. It's like someone sliding down a slide. So, yeah. So you just have to be strong enough to just be in this leg as this one releases. Yeah. So I don't want to be cut, because as this one releases, it'll take more strain, because this is basically taking more weight the more this releases. So there's a tendency to sort of come out of here because this one is protesting. But you want to just keep the weight in the one leg until this has completely relaxed, and then let it take you. So it is very much delaying the movement of the body. This is my difficult leg, so I tend to come out of it much too soon. So I have to just release here. And then I can let. And so it's exactly the same exercise, the one we were doing when we just like figure eighting around the legs, but now we're following the energy with the body. And then basically just the practice is just doing it and just keeping your eye on it, because you'll find that you just start cheating very quickly. Because we're clever, we know what's meant to be happening. And so we just sort of produce it rather than let it come out. So it's like, what is it that motivates the movement? So you try something like this and you realize, shit, this tendon here is so tight, so you just have to then do exercises to loosen it. So it sort of reveals the work, really. When you get into an exercise, it shows you what needs to be worked on next. Not within the session itself, but over the next year or so. Ooh. So now let's just come back to here. Just feel the two legs. Yeah, so it's like you're sort of like two wires that come out of the ground and then twisted around each other and then come out again. Yeah. So this part of you, the torso and the head, is just these two things that are bound up in this relationship. And so there's no sort of transcendental you, there's no ego. What's binding it together is the energy itself. So normally what makes us cohere is the ego. So we need the ego to have this feeling of that we're a complete whole entity. That's the one thing we don't have the luxury of here. So it's very much so your oneness is like an interference between these two lines. And it's that gives you the ability to change, to yield, to shift from yield to attack all the time. But it's like sort of just hovering on the edge of madness, really. So it's basically you've got a choice between madness and depression. Depression is like just the depression is the product of slavery. So allowing the system to drain your energy. So now let's just tip here. Let's just really bringing this right up and this down so that your tail is sticking right this direction. Yeah? Your head's not moving too much. Yeah? And then here and down. So, and again, we want it to be like a sort of an oozy, melty, organic movement rather than a mechanical one. So we're not machines, not in the normal way. So I'll just tip down here and up here. So my hips are here. There's an angle. So this tail is pointing in that direction there, basically down this leg. Yeah? So we need to be able to just point the tail where we want. So I'm just getting my tailbone to just poke down there by tipping my hips. Yeah? So now my weight is supported by this leg, but my energy, my tail is projecting down the other leg. And then I'll just release here. That allows this to so my spine is now basically doing this, doing like a sort of C shape in this direction. So this is what we want the spine to do. So the spine never really tips like this, it just bends. So here it's bent into this shape by pushing down here and up here. And then I just reverse these two. And the spine comes into this. So it's very Chen style. You just have to make sure you keep the tail projecting down. So my tail is pushing down, and so the pressure of my foot on the ground. And so my weight is here. So this is passive, if you like. This is like a passive strength that's just supporting weight. Now this leg is now being used more like a sort of pump to get energy from the ground. So I'm squeezing my tail down there in order to put pressure on the ground, and that will bring energy back up. But the actual weight, if I had like stress meters underneath each foot, it would indicate that the weight was actually here. Yeah? But this is the foot that's working. Yeah? This can't really do very much because it's supporting so much weight. And then the other way around. So. So just feel the toe, really extend it down this leg by dropping this hip, but also just releasing here and doing all the things we did earlier to get the tail to extend. And then it will draw energy back up. And then this side. Okay, then back to here. And now just feel the real fluidity. Yeah, so your down-chin area that can just rotate. Again, it feels like you've got stillness. Yeah, so from those sphincters, those ring muscles, which is very, very simple. But when you've got that as the foundation, so some sort of strength and centeredness there in those muscles, which is really all based around the down shape. Yeah, so it's basically like the anus, the urethra, so where you pee through, and then the mouth, that's the ring muscle, the eyes. Yeah. But basically anything that contracts and expands can be considered like a ring muscle. So the hands can go into fists and open, and the feet can contract and grip the ground, like a baby, onto your baby, and it's just doing this with its toes all the time. And then they can open. So when you work them, you have to work them all, they're meant to be together. So when one contracts, they all contract. Yeah, so the exit, so like if someone's incontinent, say they've lost the control over the urethra, over the sphincter here, then you just get them doing exercises where they're working the other sphincters. And it will, and then this one will come in sympathy, if you like, because they all contract together, they all release together. And it's very, very simple. It's like you just become this sort of motor that's just driving in a very simple open, closed, open, closed, open, closed way. Yeah. So when that is like the foundation, so this is like the oneness, if you like. It's just one thing, it's one muscle. You're just one muscle that's contracting and expanding, contracting and expanding. And then from the fact that we've got two sides, two halves, two legs, two roots, comes the tentacle type energy. So the energy of where you've got these two sides that are trying to break away from that oneness. Yeah. So there's like this dialectic, there's this play all the time between this very sort of primitive one pumping muscle and this really sort of delicate, sexy, sort of intelligent, but not from the mind, from the energy of the body, that's sort of reaching into the world all the time, a very soft way. It's just like that, and you drift in and out of them. Yeah, so sometimes you feel yourself just coming into this, yeah. And then at other times, you know, it'll just slip and slide from the two sides, yeah. But the main technique we use to actually get that one to split into the two is just turning. Okay? So let's try that. But instead of what we have to do is get away from the idea that turning is something that my mind imposes upon my body. So it's not this, which is me telling myself. So what we want to feel is that I've got two halves that are just moving against each other gently. Yeah? So these two hips, one's moving in one direction, one's moving in the other. And they're not quite synchronized. It's almost like there's a wobble between them. So normally when we're working from just the one thing, we're struggling all the time to keep the spine vertical and to keep this flat. Here, we're just trying to get everything to go out. We're just trying to get it all to sort of wobble. So sort of, you know, you sort of, it's threatening to sort of fall to pieces. Yeah, it's like a machine. It's like all the bolts have come a little bit loose. So you've got these two hips that are just sort of moving past each other. Ooh. In a very sort of feeling way. So here's something in me just wants to go with it. And it's encouraging me to melt. It's encouraging me to split into this two sides, which can then play and produce lightness, yeah, lightness and softness. And then this play between the two sides, this wobble, is just what John called the humour of the natural process. So for him, in a way, that was the most important thing. And so we're getting a turning, not by mechanically twisting like this, but by getting the two sides to just change function and change shape. It's like I'm morphing into the turn. I'm melting into the turn, rather than just holding myself together and just imposing it from outside upon my body. It's very feminine. Yeah, it's like a feminine way of moving. Mm-hmm. it's like you've got all these sort of ribbons, these silk ribbons hanging from you. And you know, you're so loose and so sensitive that you can just get these ribbons just swirling and making all these beautiful shapes that you sort of direct with your mind, but you're not quite in control of. So that's how you should feel with your own body, almost like something else is doing it. And then if we wanted to, you know, we can just go into the first warm-up exercise, but again, getting it to coming from these two melting hips that are just passing each other. Just feel the arms lagging in the waist. So my waist is already turning back, and my arms slowly follow it. Yeah, so it's just, and you just want to just really enjoy those lags. It's like there's energy in the lag. As soon as things get out of phase, it's like you're producing like a higher energy, if you like. So I'm already back. So there's all these layers. Yeah. It's like the higher layers we've got no control of, because all we can do is produce them. So we've got we've got control over the coarse layers. And with all this, the difficulty is the mind. Because the mind is always wanting to go in and interfere, and thereby spoil everything. So we just have to be really patient and just hold back with the mind and just observe and just enjoy what we're seeing. That's actually really difficult. It's like, you know, when you're meditating and you're watching your breath, as soon as you watch your breath, it alters how you breathe. So to be able to watch your breath without interfering with it in any way whatsoever is really difficult. That's a soft mind. Whoa. Let's just come back to here. Let's just try just a few. So let's just step. So just using this action here to lift the other leg up so that we can step with it. Yeah. So basically what we're doing, we're just getting into the foot, but not by just going, and bringing my weight over it, but with an action here. Yeah, so it's like an arm comes out and grabs down from here. So what I do, I'm in the middle, so I just release here, and that turns me in this direction a little bit. And then this releases here. And it just, it's like an arm comes out of that joint and just comes down to the foot and enables the other foot to come up. Yeah. So you have to grow a limb, if you like, an energy limb, which follows the sort of general shape of your leg, but it's quite different from your leg. So you release here, and then you release at the back, and then that enables you to reach under the foot with that energy, that aspect of your mind, and allows the other foot to come up. Yeah? So it's like, ooh. So it's the release of the hip that takes you into the foot. It's not me saying, okay, go into this leg and just doing this, yeah? Because that just crushes everything up. So I want everything to be sort of loose so that energy can go through the joints. So here I release here, and then here, and then that bring the foot up. And then I can step with that and then release here and here. And I can then step up here. Yeah? And again, 1, 2, that brings the foot up. And then step. And now to get into this leg, I'll just release here. Release brings me into the leg, and then release here. Gets me under the foot so that I can bring the other leg up. Okay? So this is how we step. So 1, 2. So it's like generating a ripple of energy which ripples down the leg, catches the ground, and allows the other knee to come up. Yeah. Ooh. Step and ooh. Yes, that's basically how we step in the form everywhere. So. So it's just basically the figure of 8 just going around the hips. But I have to sort of generate the flow of energy on the figure of 8 rather than simply see it and trace it. So here just release, and then this drops down, so my belly's pulling in here, and then I'll just naturally bring the knee up. And then I just release here. So here I'm sort of sending my tail out, if you like. And then I let the tail relax down the leg. And this foot comes up. So, one, and two. Okay, one more. Wow. Two. Two. Okay, so let's just stand. And so, you know, they say, don't they, those in the classics, you know, the foot kisses the ground. Yeah. So the foot goes down with the gentlest of touches. Yeah. So barely any sort of pressure. And so, by just sinking, relaxing, we get to that stage where we're barely touching the ground. And it's that enables you to have like a light touch. Because if you were only relaxed and you put your hand on someone, then you'd have the weight of the arm hanging on. So that's, Yong Chen Fu used to, if someone was doing that to him, he would say, "I'm not a meat hook, so don't hang on me." Yeah? So by sinking down, we find this sort of rising energy, which like tentacles just comes into the arms. And then the arms are just sort of hovering around because the rising energy is cancelling or balancing, if you like, the sinking energy. And so I could stand like this all day. It's not a matter of my muscles having to work to hold the arms up. It's just a pump of energy that's flowing through. And then when you touch someone with it, you don't even need to put your hands on them, you're just touching them with energy. Of course, that's healing and all the other things. Okay, very good. Okay.